Hi everybody and welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be a little bit different because since lockdown, since the quarantine, my creative juices have got flowing and I'm going to be doing some thrift flipping. Obviously being in lockdown, I don't know if everyone knows this, but I don't buy any new clothing at the moment. Like in 2020, me and my boyfriend have like made a vow to only buy second-hand clothing, and obviously with the charity shops being closed, we're having to be a little bit more creative with that. So I'm going to be, I can never say this word, I'm going to be thrift flipping today 3 items, and they're all items that I've either had for a long time or bought from a charity shop, and I'm going to be switching them up to give them a new breath of life and hopefully make them one of my favourite items back in my wardrobe. So basically what I did a few months ago or a few weeks ago, I cleared out my wardrobe and found some items that I thought could potentially have a new life, a new little twist on them to make them something that I would really enjoy wearing. So the first thing I went for was these Gap jeans, which I actually found in a charity shop which was closing, and they were only £1. I don't mind thrift flipping these whatsoever because obviously it's not like I spent a huge amount of money on them or they were brand new or designer jeans or anything like that. And my idea for these was to do a little like line drawing down one leg. I just think it will look really cool, and I think it's definitely some inspo that I've got from Pinterest, but I think you would see this kind of thing in like Zara and those kind of shops. So all I did was head online and find a fabric pen, just because I thought pen would probably be easier to handle than a fabric paint or anything like that. So I just opted for the Posca pens. I think this was like a couple of pounds off Amazon, and I also got a black one, but I will only be using the white one today. But obviously if you had like a really light pair of jeans or a black pair of jeans, you could definitely opt for a black or like any colour that you wanted to, but I wanted to keep it pretty basic, pretty simple, so I just went for the white on like a fairly light wash denim because I thought it would be kind of a bit more subtle and also really freaking cool. So moving into the voiceover section of this video, as I mentioned, these were really cheap jeans. I actually got them on a closed down sale for only £1, and they are a really good fit. I do really love them. I just don't reach for them very much because they are just on the small side a tad, which means that obviously they're not that comfy to sit around and lounge at home in, but I will definitely be reaching these once lockdown is back up and running. But my inspiration for this was a picture I had seen on Pinterest. I really loved how this looked. I thought it looked super edgy and super different and was something I had never seen before but really liked. I'm a big fan of line drawings anyway, so I wanted to try and incorporate this, but I found that this particular image or inspiration that I was using was just a bit too funky, a bit too like abstract, a bit too angled, I guess, like very squared and triangled and things, whereas I kind of prefer the more organic feel of line drawings and kind of like the rounded faces and everything like that. So I actually found this inspiration picture and copied and pasted some of the faces to make my own kind of guide, I guess, as to what the leg would look like, and I'm also going to be adding one on the back pocket as well. So I started off just by drawing out straight onto the jean, which was very tricky and very hard to eyeball, especially because the pencil didn't transfer amazingly across. If you have some kind of like a washable fabric pen, I would use that, but I only had a pencil. And I found this really tricky to get the proportions right and everything. So as you'll see, I then try and draw it onto paper in the right size to copy it straight across basically, and just kind of eyeball that, which worked a lot better. I obviously went around it in the pencil first and then used the Posca pens. I will say the Posca pens are really good because you can really kind of build up your colour with it and like how dense you want your colour, but you do have to shake it quite a few times, and there were a few times where I had to kind of stab it on a piece of paper to try and get the liquid to come out a bit thicker than it actually was. But I really liked the effect of this and how it looked, and it meant I could be really precise with the angles and the lines and everything I was putting down. Obviously I couldn't do it as a line drawing, I had to kind of go over bits quite a few times because obviously denim is quite a tough fabric, so the effect of it can seem a little messy, I guess, but I think I did quite a good job at cleaning it all up and making it look really good. So as you see, I'm doing it piece by piece or face by face, I guess, so I'm not drawing out all of the templates or anything like that before I get started with the pen, which you could completely do, but I just felt more comfortable kind of doing it as I went to see kind of what works and what didn't and kind of figure it out from there. I didn't necessarily watch a tutorial on how to do this or anything like that, so I was kind of figuring it out how I went, and I found it really satisfying to be able to complete one face and then move on to the next, because I felt like I was gaining things as I went along. It wasn't like I was putting in hours of groundwork to then do the final step. I could kind of do that as I went, which was really cool because I could see how it was coming to life and what I could improve on moving forward down the rest of the leg. The hardest part was definitely the proportions, so something I found was that drawing it on a piece of paper really helped, especially if you kind of drew out how big you wanted it to give you a kind of template, as you'll see me doing here. Again, it's just trial and error about keeping your eye on the stencil that you have or the picture that you have and kind of copying that across. There were a few times where I just had to get rid of it, start again, because obviously I didn't have a rubber with me at this time, but it's also very tricky to kind of get all the proportions right, because you don't realise how funky line drawings can go if like an eye is in the wrong place or a mouth isn't at the right angle. So it was a bit of trial and error, but I'm really enjoying how these were turning out. And what I actually decided to do was make a template for myself. So what I did was grabbed a pair of scissors and started cutting out around the line drawing. This was quite tricky to make sure you were cutting out the right sections of the line drawing, but turned out to be such a good idea and so easy to do the rest of the leg with. So I would highly recommend you do this if you're hoping to do a similar project as this. I kind of just cut round the lines where I saw fit and where I hoped bits wouldn't fall off or cut through anything. So it did mean often at times I had to do a section, draw that in, and then do another section, but it just meant I could put the piece of paper directly on the trouser leg and use my pencil just to go around the edges of the paper. Again, I had to be quite harsh with this and use quite a bit of force and do it quite a few times to make sure the pencil transferred across. But I found that once I moved the piece of paper out of the way, I could then see either a faint line or a good line and kind of join those all up. And it just meant that I had a lot less pencil marks all over the trousers, and that it was a lot more time efficient because I wasn't rubbing things out, trying over again and trying to figure it out directly onto the denim. I already had a stencil which was pretty bulletproof. I decided to join the faces just by doing kind of a little loop in the line drawing. I just found this helped it made it look pretty organic, pretty natural, like they flowed into each other, because like I said, these were separate line drawings which I had to kind of piece together in my own way, which kind of made it fun, because obviously this is completely bespoke to me and I was able to put a little stamp of my own creativity and my imagination on it, which I really enjoyed. As you'll see, I'm pushing the pen onto this bit of cardboard to try and get the ink to come out a bit thicker. I think you're supposed to push down the pen as you draw, but on denim this is quite difficult because obviously it's fabric, so the fabric moves. So I found that I had to kind of pump the pen to get the liquid to the top of the tip and then go round it. I didn't actually film me drawing on the last face because I just did exactly the same thing with the template and drawing it round, but I then took a rubber and just rubbed out the pencil marks at the top, which I had done before when I was drawing directly onto the jeans, which actually worked really well. I was actually very happy with how well this worked, because I was really worried these pencil marks were going to be there for the long haul, but they luckily came out. And then what the Posca pens tell you to do is turn over your piece of fabric and iron it so that you kind of seal the pen or the liquid into place. I would suggest using some grease-proof paper or a tea towel or a random piece of fabric that you're not too fond of or anything like that, a scrap piece of fabric to put on the underside, just because some of the pen did transfer to the table, only like a tiny few bits, but I guess that was just where the pen was like a little thicker or a little wetter. You are supposed to let it dry before you do this, just so that the heat can really seal that pen onto the trousers, which means that when you go to wash it, it will stay there and your design won't get ruined. You'll also see that I'm also ironing the pocket, because I actually did go ahead and draw another face onto the pocket. Again, I didn't film this because I did the exact same thing, making a template, cutting it out and drawing it on. And this is the final result, which I'm absolutely obsessed with. As you can see, it is quite subtle, but in the close-ups they just look really good, and I'm so happy. They're just so cool and different and funky, and I really like the expressions on the faces, and I think the one on the back pocket is really cute and cheeky, and I just love how these turned out. I am definitely going to be reaching for these way more often. I think it really elevates an otherwise pretty basic outfit, and I think I quite like the fact that if you were far enough away you wouldn't really notice them, and it would only be if you were close you would see kind of the detail, which obviously if you were going for something a bit bolder you could definitely use different colours and things to make it a bit louder, but I really like the subtlety of this one. My next thrift flip is going to be of an old turtleneck pink top that I got in Primark probably like 3 years ago maybe, and there's just something about it, like I don't go to wear it very often. The fabric isn't that great, but also I find like because the colour comes so high, like because it's a turtleneck obviously, the colour kind of washes me out a little bit, and the turtleneck's also not very well made, like it's very chunky, so it's quite hard to roll down, so it's just not one of my favourites that I go for. Like I'd rather wear any of my other turtlenecks than that one, so I've been reaching for it a lot less. But I saw this really cool video, I'll put it here on Instagram, I don't know who it was by off the top of my head or whatever, but I just saw it, I was like, oh my gosh, that's genius, why can't I do that, why didn't I think of that? So I'm going to give it a go, and I'm really excited about this one because I think it's going to look really, really cool. So after looking at the video, I actually changed the routine or the method that she did this in. You'll see on the video that she cuts up the middle first and everything like that. She just cuts it in a different way. I decided to cut off the neck first just because all the fabric was still together, so it would kind of make it more symmetrical on both sides, which I thought would be very useful. So I just went around and cut off the neck. I didn't necessarily draw it out beforehand or use a stencil or anything like that. I kind of just eyeballed it, but I took about an inch or an inch and a half off below the hem of the turtleneck, like where the turtleneck joined the rest of the top. I left about an inch. This is obviously a very raw cut, but it will get cleaned up later, don't worry. Then I decided to go ahead and cut off the bottom hem, so just the seam along the bottom. I cut that and used that as a guide just to go straight across, because this will form the ties for the top later on. So I cut that as close to the seam as I could to make sure it was still all attached together in one big string. Again, I found this really easy to do before cutting it in half because all the material was still together, so it was almost just like cutting two pieces of paper on top. I could get quite a symmetrical line, which proved really, really helpful. This was quite fiddly to do, so I would say if you have pins or anything like that, maybe try that to get a more straight line, but I wasn't too fast because I think I will be cropping it a bit more. Then again, cutting up the middle, I didn't draw anything or use any pins or use a stencil. I just kind of went for it. This is quite a stretchy top, so I felt like I could manipulate it if it was a bit one-sided or what have you. But I do think if you have a baggier top or a top that doesn't stretch very well, I would probably have measured it out to make sure it was exactly in the middle. But this top was actually ribbed, which made it super easy because I could just follow the line of ribbing up all the way to the middle, which meant it was a straight line. After cutting up the middle, I noticed the top was still a little bit long just because it was a regular turtleneck. It came down to like halfway across my butt, I guess, so I just wanted it to be more cropped so that it would hit just the top of my jeans. So again, I eyeballed it and went ahead and cut maybe about 2.5 inches off of this fabric. Then what I didn't film, because it took freaking ages, was me hemming the top. So you'll see on the tutorial that I posted, like the little one that I was following along, she hemmed it using a sewing machine. I don't have a sewing machine, so I hand hemmed this top. I went around the neckline and just down the two sides of the top, down the middle, and just kind of folded maybe 1 centimetre of fabric over it and went in with a needle and just sewed all of that together just to clean up the edges. This is completely unnecessary, but I did find like the finish of the top was a little bit more elevated because it was a lot neater. And if you do have a sewing machine, I would 100% recommend you use that because it would have made it so much easier. But I just pinned it and stitched as I went, and it took me about 3 hours. I'm not gonna lie, my eyes were burning by the end of it, but I think it was worth it. It did look good, but again, not a necessary step. Then I got the piece that we cut off earlier along the bottom of the hem of the top, and I cut that in half to make 2 separate pieces, which will become our straps. So I actually tried this top on and decided where I wanted the straps to go and kind of pinned those in place just with a normal pin, just to make sure that they were even and that it would work properly. And I probably attached them just below my boobs, or just like towards the bottom of my boobs, I will say, which you'll see later. But I just again attached this with a sewing needle, just by hand. I just did a few stitches. I'll probably have to go in and do a bit more. As I said, this top is very stretchy and I would hate for the straps to like suddenly come off because the top's quite tight and me be left in a very awkward and embarrassing situation. So I think I will go back in and just make sure those stitches are really, really solid. But I just went over the hem of the top with these so they kind of like meshed in with each other. It wasn't too obvious, and I did really small stitches so that the string wasn't really obvious on the other side. I just went over and over this until I felt it was super secure. Then all I did was take a pair of scissors and cut off any excess string to make sure it was all neat and lovely, and I did the exact same on the other side, making sure, as I said, that they were completely even in height so that I didn't have any lopsidedness. And I am absolutely obsessed with how this turned out. I'm so in love with this top. I'm going to be wearing it all the time. I think it would be really cute just by itself with a pair of shorts or a pair of jeans, or you could pop a little bralette underneath, or you could literally wear it as a cardigan if you wanted to wear a normal top underneath. But I really love the colour, and just the shape of it is so flattering. You could also obviously wear it as a bikini cover up in the summer, which I would love to do. Hopefully we'll get the opportunity to do that. I would highly recommend this if you just have even a long sleeve top or a long sleeve turtleneck that you want to transform, or even a short sleeve one. If this had short sleeves, that would also be super cute. These types of tops are really trendy right now, and it wasn't too difficult to do. It was literally just a few cuts, and if I had a sewing machine it would have been 100 times easier, but I would definitely recommend you trying this one out because it was pretty straightforward. Then lastly, I'm just taking this plain black t-shirt, and I actually have a patch which I bought from Covent Garden. No, not Covent Garden, where it's Camden Market. I bought it for like £3.50 or something really inexpensive, and as I said, it's just a patch which I thought would renovate a new top a bit, just turn a basic black tee into something a little bit more interesting. So I'm going to be ironing that on, and I'm really excited for this one too, just because I think it's such a simple thrift flip that anyone can do, but I think it really does make a huge difference. So I don't think I need to explain this one too much because it is very straightforward, but I popped the top on, pinned patch in place, and just took it off, shoved an iron on it basically. I did find that the iron wasn't hot enough, so I had to pop it back on, put a tea towel over it just to protect the patch, and I held it on there for maybe about 20 to 30 seconds, and I would just wiggle it ever so slightly every now and then. You're not supposed to like really move it around because obviously you don't want the patch to move, but once you feel like it's on there pretty good, I would just do a little shake, and as you can see, it's so cute. I actually did go in and just stitch it a couple of times just to make sure it was very secure, but I think you could have done without that. I was just a bit paranoid, I think. But I think this top is so sweet, and it just looks like brand new. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's so different. Just that tiny little patch can add so much of an aesthetic and some quirk and some personality to an otherwise very basic top. But yeah, that is everything for my thrift flip haul that I had for you, my little DIY section of this video. But I really hope you enjoyed it. It's obviously something a bit out of my comfort zone, not something I do all the time, or especially on this channel, but I really enjoyed doing it. I think they turned out so well, and I'm so excited to wear these. I actually love all of them. I think my favourite is the pink top, probably, definitely, just because the transformation was huge, but I'm definitely going to be wearing all of these moving forward. Let me know which one your favourite was down below. But if you did like this video, please hit thumbs up and subscribe down below, and hopefully I'll see you very soon. Bye!